Welcome to Mating Matters. I'm Dr. Wendy Walsh with producer Brooke Peterson. This week we're trying something that we do every once in a while, which is take a call from a listener. And we're always so thrilled when people call us with questions. So let's take a listen to this young woman's question.
Hey, Dr. Wendy. So I have a question about daddy issues. So I have daddy issues, and I actually know a lot of my friends have daddy issues because you find people that you're alike. But my thing is that what I realized is like none of us really fit the stereotype of girls with daddy issues because one, we're definitely not easy. I mean, I hate that term, but it's true. We're not easy. And then two, we don't really go for guys that are very much older than us. Like, I know me personally, I do not like dating older guys. I mean, I'm still in college, but I'm not out there looking for guys that are in their 30s to take care of me and be that dad archetype. Ugh. So I would define daddy issues as just not having the best relationship with your father. So for me and my friends, all of us that have daddy issues, or claim we do, have divorced parents, so our dads kind of treated our moms terribly, and then they kind of ran off and had a bunch of like extramarital affairs. Sometimes they married the mistress and like started a new family, sometimes they didn't. And so then basically they neglected family life for a while and avoided the family, and then kind of started anew. A lot of times they moved out of like the hometown and like went to the bigger city and then just got with a bunch of people and stuff like that. And so I was just wondering, is there any science to this stereotype, or is this just some sexist stuff that has been in society for way too long that we definitely need to banish? Because I'm kind of thinking there's probably some BS behind this stereotype. I mean, nobody really talks about mommy issues, so the opposite for guys, but I was just wondering. And yeah, so thanks for answering my question, Dr. Wendy. I love your podcast.
Well, there is a lot to unpack. Thank you so much for your question about daddy issues. Let's start with the definition of daddy issues. The definition that you told me is about an abandoning father, a father who's not really involved, and the idea that if a girl grows up to not have a father who is involved with her upbringing, that somehow then she'll be more likely to be romantically attracted to and maybe even sexually attracted to older men with more money to provide more security. Well, let me remind you that human beings have evolved to be cooperative breeders, and we have the widest range of male investment in their offspring of any primate. So at one end of the scale, you've got a guy whose only investment in his kids is like a teaspoon of sperm. And at the other end of the scale, you've got the baby-wearing, softball-throwing, carpool driving, doting daddy. And we have everything in between. So, what about all these young women whose dads weren't so involved? Who picks up the slack? And throughout history and evolution, who picked up the slack for the dads that were busy out spreading seeds and out at the hunt? Well, it was other women. It was aunties. It was grandmothers. It was close friends of the mother. It was the motherhood village. And I encourage you, if you haven't listened to it, to listen to my 2 episodes called Mothers, MILFs, and Wives to learn about all the different reproductive choices that women have. Now, I also want to say that the definition of daddy issues isn't just like looking for an older man or one that could provide security, although that does happen, right? So a young girl who has feelings of abandonment, feeling of loss, feeling of longing because her father wasn't there, might seek out an older man because, well, I'm going to be that young hot ticket for him. He's not going to leave me. So that will reduce the threat of abandonment. And also, if he's old enough to have a big fat wallet, it can also increase feelings of security. In other words, financial security ends up being the supplement for true feelings of love and security. It can lay out that way, but it can also come out another way. If a girl has what you're referring to, daddy issues, feelings of longing and abandonment by a father that wasn't there, they might actually unconsciously seek out men who will abandon them. And in fact, that's almost more common, where their model for love inside their head is, it must hurt to be loved. I must have a feeling of longing that is mixed with the feeling of attraction. And that's true love. That's what is familiar to them. And we will always go out and seek what is familiar to us. Now, why is it that one girl might go one way, seeking an older, financially secure man? Another one might seek a bunch of bad boys who hurt her or abandon her. And yet another will have a perfectly happy marriage and have a secure attachment to a guy. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. Because you have to understand, attachment style is partly genetic. It's the genes that we come into the earth with for longing or feelings of security or feeling of avoidant and dismissiveness, mixed with what goes on in the environment. So we all have a loaded gun of genes, and then the environment either activates or suppresses some of those genes. So one girl who might have that dad that wasn't around might still have healthy relationships, but her sister might be filled with longing and loss. Her sister might be the one acting out and dating all the bad boys or being sexually promiscuous early with multiple partners as she's searching for that lost love. And it has to do with genes. Now, there is some evolutionary psychology to this besides the fact that we are cooperative breeders, and there are lots of other attachment figures that can help us feel loved and secure in our life. There is some research that speculates that fatherhood absence may actually precipitate early puberty in women. And we are working on an episode coming up on precocious puberty that will get into the details of this. But let me just say this. So how you tell that you're not in the nest anymore is through pheromones. And if you're in a nest filled with brothers who are related to you, you're going to smell those pheromones and go, ew, P.U., my brother's stinky sweat socks. I do not want to have sex with him. And that's how evolution, Mother Nature, made us, not have sex with our siblings, right? But what we're seeing now is a lot of households with single mothers and a bunch of girl pheromones. And so there is some speculation by evolutionary psychologists that because you're not smelling your stinky brother or your stinky dad, and yes, people who are directly related to us generally don't smell sexually attractive to us, that as a result, you're sending this message to your pituitary gland that you're actually out in the field. You're actually ready to reproduce. Now, it's not going to happen to everybody, and it depends what other pheromones you're exposed to in classrooms and, in busy urban centers and workplaces, etc. But it's kind of an interesting thought. And a note about men and mommy issues. In fact, men can have mommy issues, either because they had an abandoning mother, an emotionally dismissive mother, or maybe even a completely smothering mother. I mean, I joke about something that's painful, but it is possible to meet men in their 30s and 40s still living with their mom. They're so close because they're so emotionally fused. I haven't read research on this, but I have noticed anecdotally that often when it's a single mother with an only child who is a boy, on some level, she makes that boy her secure attachment figure. And there's an unconscious contract that says, okay, you can go out and have sex, but if you actually have emotional intimacy with another woman, you are hurting me. You're abandoning me. It's all unspoken. These are tiny little things that happen between a mother and a son. As parents of children of any gender, If we do our job well, our job is to work ourselves out of a job. And emotionally, the parent-child relationship is the most backward relationship ever. Think about it. When you meet somebody who's a romantic prospect, you slowly become closer and closer and get more emotionally intimate and disclose things about yourself until you form, hopefully, a secure attachment. But a baby and a mother, that's a whole different thing. You literally start out as one human. A breastfeeding baby is literally living off the mother's immune system, getting immune cells through the breast milk. They are sponging up when they are pre-verbal all the emotions and feelings of their parents. And that relationship is one of long, slow separation. And if the parent hasn't worked through their own stuff and they have an anxious attachment disorder, they're not going to emotionally allow that child to separate healthfully, to individuate, right? Or the parent may have an attachment issue where they had so much loss in their own life that they're completely emotionally avoidant and dismissive, and they don't see their child and their feelings. And the child may grow up to have a lot of anxiety around attachment because of that. I know. I hate to spend a lot of time blaming mom because everything that we do is instinct. It's natural. It comes from how we were raised and our genetic predisposition. But I do think it's incumbent on all of us to become educated, to grow as individuals, to seek out therapy, to help us understand our feelings and manage our feelings. So, the big fat answer is, just because you had a CAD for a dad doesn't mean that you're going to grow up to have deep abandonment issues. Maybe there were other secure attachments in your life. You were able to feel loved and connected to the primary parent, the one who stayed around. Maybe you had great aunties, coaches, teachers, other people who saw you for who you were, and you have this secure idea about what love is. Also, maybe you're just lucky and you came into this world with a genetic predisposition to not have a lot of issues around attachment, not a lot of anxiety or avoidance. We are cooperative breeders. It takes a village. And when you take one person out of the village, it doesn't mean the entire village has fallen apart. So daddy issues, though, if you do have them, can present themselves either in seeking out older men who won't leave you because they're so excited to have a young, hot girlfriend, or older men with financial security that will try to fill that hole of longing. Or they could play out in that you're going to be attracted to bad boys and players and guys who will abandon you and hurt you because that's familiar to you. And of course, men can have issues around the attachment they had to their mothers as well. So what can we do? Well, I really think it's important that all of us spend part of our lifetime creating insight into our inner journey, becoming better people. It starts with listening to podcasts like this, reading self-help books, seeking out psychotherapy. This is where we will find freedom. Freedom from unwieldy emotions that trap us. I really believe the truth sets us free. But first, we need to find out what our truth is. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mating Matters. I'm Dr. Wendy Walsh with producer Brooke Peterson. We'll see you next time. Mating Matters is produced in partnership with iHeartMedia. It is researched, interviewed, and written by me, Dr. Wendy Walsh, and it is edited and produced by Brooke Peterson. You know, people don't learn about podcasts usually by just searching around. They learn about a podcast because somebody who loved that podcast told them about it. So I encourage you to please subscribe, write a review, and more than anything, hit that share button now. Think of somebody who would like to hear this information as much as you enjoyed it. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Dr. Wendy Walsh. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Wendy Walsh. If you'd like to call the Mating Matters message line, you certainly can. The number is 323-207-8277. If you got a question, we want to hear it. or maybe you have a comment. Either way, we love to hear from you, our listener. The sound was pretty good, eh?